Hi, my name is Loy and I'm doing a follow-up on one of my most popular videos, which is a story that I did with Anita Jobs Maju. So many people watched that video, but most people were really curious about the actual process of how to relocate from Kenya to Canada. So today I'm going to speak to somebody who lives in Canada. She's grown up in Kenya, but she's now in Canada, and she's going to tell us what options we have, especially if you watched that video of Anita Jobs Maju and you did not get the full picture. I'm going to do another follow-up with Anita, but for now, we want to speak to somebody who has actually been able to be successful to go, and she's going to tell us what the processes are, what the options are. So thank you so much for clicking. Let's get into the story.
Yes, good afternoon to us. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, for me it is the middle of the night almost, but I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so for me, I think we met about a certain video that I did where I spoke about options about traveling to Canada, and I just touched on that a little bit. Yes. And thank you so much, because as a Kenyan who lives in Canada, you really engaged around that video, and man, I'm glad that you're now here.
Yes.
To give us every single thing that we need. I've watched a little bit of your channel, so I know that you also educate people about the options that we have in Canada, and that's why I'm so glad to host you here.
Thank you.
So for me, my first question is just speaking as somebody who's in Kenya right now and thinking about relocating. Mm-hmm. Where do I even start? Yani, like clueless kabisa, where do I even start?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to your audience. I do not take it for granted. And there are many ways, just like in life, when you have an issue or a problem, there are many ways to go about it. So to answer your question, how to get to Canada, that's a very big question with many answers. How I do things, first of all, to let the audience know, we have a YouTube channel, and as you can see on the screen there, I've written the name. It's called zuru. That's my YouTube channel, and that's where we weekly try to post for you opportunities that we find in Canada. So by opportunities, we mean we post jobs, we post about college, university, scholarships, and we also talk about migration, because there are people who want to move entirely to make Canada their home, and they are moving with families. I also wanted to clarify to the audience that, you know what, us, we are not agents. Our role is to inform and educate. So we post the information, we answer your questions, but we do it in a way that teaches you how to do it yourself. So to answer the wonderful question that have just been asked here, how to come to Canada. So first of all, there are many ways, but it depends on your individual circumstances, because what I may be looking for and what you may be looking for in Canada is different. So some of the things that I would advise you to consider, before you choose the method you want to use to come or to migrate, is first, your language. Canada is big, Canada is bilingual. They speak both French and English. Some provinces focus more on French. Some provinces focus more on English as their main language of communication. So that is one thing for you to check. If you are both French speaking or English speaking, you're both welcome in Canada. It's just that the province you go to sometimes may be depending on the language you speak, because you want to settle faster and quicker. Second, your level of education and training also matters. There are entry-level jobs that you can get from abroad. Equally, there are also technical, highly skilled jobs that you can get from abroad. For example, a doctor will need degrees and all manner of licenses to come, but a nanny may not need much training and education. I was just giving those two examples to show you both ends of the spectrum. And then your work interests also matter. What sector are you coming to work in? Is it transportation? Is it healthcare? Weather is also another thing to factor. Canada is big. We have 10 provinces and 3 territories. Some of us fear the cold so much. Some provinces
I was going
in Canada,
to say it is cold.
Yes. Some of these places in Canada are cold, like -30 winters. But don't get scared, guys. Equally, there are very warm places like around, let's say, British Columbia, Vancouver. They're way warmer than the prairies. The prairies are very cold. The prairies being Manitoba, Saskatchewan, those areas are way colder than if you are to come to British Columbia province. So those are 4 things that I would advise you to consider before you decide how and which method you're going to use to migrate.
Okay.
Now, we can move to the types or the methods or the general 2 categories you can come under. Again, depends on what you're looking for. There are people who want to come here temporarily. So if you are in that category, you can come as a temporary resident. What do I mean by a temporary resident? A temporary resident are people who come on very specific time limit kind of visas. For example, coming here as a temporary worker to be a nanny, or coming here as a student. Student, you want to go to school forever. Maybe if it's undergraduate, 4 years. If it's master's, maybe 2 years. It's defined. So that's why I'm calling them temporary residents. Equally, there's category B. For people who are sure, I am done with living in my current country. I want to go to Canada for good. Option B is yours, what we call permanent resident. I hope we are still together. So on permanent resident, what do I mean by permanent resident? There are also 2 major options, guys. I'm not saying there are not others. The 2 major options for coming as a permanent resident, there's something we call express entry, which you can apply because Canada immigration system, I find it's not complicated. It's very direct. You can apply and do by yourself without avoiding agents. I'm not saying you don't use agents. If you're wealthy enough or you have the money or the resources to pay agents because they cost you money, well and good, and you trust them because it's also a matter of trust. But if you equally understand English and French well and you can read these documents and do it yourself, I highly encourage. So back to permanent residence, we already talked about express entry you can apply by yourself, but that one can help you, especially if you're moving with a family, because some people, they want to move together with, let's say, a spouse or children. But I'm not saying you have to have a family. You can migrate using express entry on your own if you wish to. But just know that it can also help you to migrate with your family if you want to come forever. At the same time, under the permanent method that we were talking about, there's also something we call provincial nominee program, which is run by most provinces across Canada. So provinces are also allowed by the government sometimes to nominate people who live outside Canada if they want to come to Canada to live permanently. But again, for the provincial nominee programs, it depends on the province you choose because these provinces usually nominate based on their labor needs, you know, because they're also trying to fill in the gaps that they have internally. So if you decide to use provincial nominee, again, I would advise that you come and choose the province you want to go to ahead of the time based on your interests, because provincial nominee, as we already explained, the province has the rights to nominate whoever they want based on their local needs. So guys, these things I'm saying, they're not miracles. I have done videos on them on my YouTube channel. And as you can see right below here, Zuru YouTube channel, go there, you will get all the information. We've already covered some of them because here we are just going broad strokes to give general information today.
I don't know if at some point you're going to talk about how much it costs. Yeah, because I'm interested when you say you can apply. Okay, so what is the implication of how much would somebody spend?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. I can briefly touch on it, then I'll continue with the rest. So remember when we talked about the 2 broad ways, coming as a temporary migrant or as a permanent migrant. So I find if you come as a temporary one, which the major ones being on work permit, in short, you can work with a company to hire you when you're still abroad and then use their hiring letter to get a work permit from let's say, Immigration Canada, the embassy application office from your country, right? So that option sometimes is cheaper because you're only going to be paying for the work permit, assuming you didn't use an agent. You know, you applied for a job abroad, got the job by yourself, then you use the permit to get a visa. That is fairly inexpensive because you'll be paying for the visa only, no? But if you choose to go to school, a lot of money will be needed. And I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's because usually when you will go to apply for a student visa, this is where it comes. The immigration officer will want to see you do something. They'll check proof of funds. I'm sure all of you have heard that term. Yeah, and the reason being, for example, if you're coming for an undergraduate degree that's taking 4 years and you're applying for a student visa, the immigration officer has to make sure that you can prove that you have enough finances to at least pay for your education, and education even in our countries we pay for anyway. Pay for your education, pay for your housing and accommodation, pay for your medical, your books, tuition, etc. So school, you will have to prove, of course, a bank statement that has, of course, substantial amount. But the way to calculate it is, if you go to Immigration Canada website, they guide you. But most of it, when you're proving funds, you have to prove cost of your accommodation. If it's school, calculate it this way. Cost of your tuition annually, and your cost of housing, because you will live when you're going to school, your food, books and tuition, and of course medical cover, because you take student medical cover when you come in. So that's why the student one you're proving, a bit more. But
so for example, So for example, I'm just trying to get down to amounts. I don't know.
I don't want to go with specific figures. You know why? Because if you go to school in a province like Manitoba, the same degree will cost you cheaper, because Manitoba is cheaper than British Columbia. Because British Columbia is going to be expensive. It has Vancouver and all those big cities. So education there, I'm not discouraging anybody to go there. I'm just answering the question. That's why I hate to go with a figure, because when you will be doing that math, that's why I gave you a metric and not a figure. I gave you a formula and not a figure. Because you may be doing a same bachelor's degree in Manitoba, but proving different funds from somebody going to Vancouver, because the cost of living is different. Tuition there, universities are also different. Housing there, costly, and another one less costly. So that's also something for you to figure ahead of time, according to your pockets. Because some people, they're wealthy, they can afford to go to British Columbia. Well, use that formula there, because it will be successful. If you're on a budget, then sometimes you're better off with, let's say, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, because they're less expensive than, let's say, going to Toronto or going to Vancouver. What I mean?
I understand. Correct. So then just to drill down a little bit then, so apart from the student option, let's imagine that somebody is coming there on a permanent relocation, basically. And so you're saying, like, if we want to understand the fees of the application process and all that, we would find that on the embassy website, on the Canadian immigration website.
Correct. The visa fees are there. In fact, if you go to the website and put your country, you have to put your country of application. And then they will also ask you to put the type of visa you are applying for. There's a cost rundown that's given to you. That's why I didn't want to give you the cost, because the cost that you could be getting and the cost that I could be getting could be different, depending on the visas we are applying for and the things we are doing. So that's why I feel giving you the information. And the formula is more empowering, no figure. But if we use the permanent method, because I know maybe that's where you're coming to next, because I already explained the temporary. That too, when you apply for express entry, the figure that you will be paying and I will be paying is different, because they also check your family composition. Because let's say, for example, I may be applying together with 10 children and my spouse. Yourself, you could be having maybe only 3 children and 1 spouse. Because they will charge a basic fee for the primary applicant. That's how they do it for express entry. And then for each additional person on your application, an additional figure is added. You see? Now you see again why I didn't give a figure. So somebody with 5 dependents and another person with 10 dependents, your bill will be very different. So we will go to sectors, high demand sectors, because that's the other thing you also wanted to know, right?
Yeah.
So again, we are also not discouraging anybody. We are here to empower and to encourage people, because life is hard enough. We are trying to make people have information that can help them move forward in their lives in one way or the other, right? So these are some of the sectors that have high demand now. I'm not saying you can't get a job if you're out of the sectors I'm going to talk about. But I'm only going to focus on this because we both know that the COVID pandemic has changed things in many countries, including Canada. So in Canada now, healthcare is booming. That is the truth. And not just Canada, even in America. But I'll focus on Canada. That's what I know more. So for example, in Canada now, you can come as both a highly skilled or even a low-skilled person in the healthcare sector. So they are taking doctors, they're taking nurses, but we are not stopping there. Equally, are they taking what we call healthcare aides and support worker? So guys, healthcare aid and support worker, you don't need a degree for things like that. Their trainings are very short, just a few months, and you can get a job that can be able to pay your bills and help you function in your daily life. So for example, support worker, I know is not a term that's used in many countries, but here in the West, it's a common term, or healthcare aid. So support workers, they help clients who generally are not able to take care of themselves. For example, clients who are dealing with disability or elderly people. And some of those roles are things that you and I don't even need much training to do. It's like, helping with feeding or light meal preparation, or driving them to a doctor's appointment, taking them to their meetings or social gatherings that they are not able to take themselves there to, helping with dressing, simple things, or even just laundry and housekeeping for them. And some of them are day jobs. You don't have to be there during the night, depending on the client. Some of them are just a regular day job like the others. You go do it, go home, get your money. Yeah. So again, as we mentioned, healthcare aides and support worker jobs, those ones I've even seen on websites sometimes when employers advertise and even are willing to take applicants who are still based abroad. So I'm not saying this applies to anybody, but if you're in that category who needs that kind of a job, then I would go apply for that job. But before I do, I make sure my resume is done well for me, because here, even a support worker resume, don't joke around with it, they will comb it, So make sure your resume is strong, powerful, speaking to your skills. Things like first aid, make sure you have done locally in your country there, put it. Things like meal preparation, you have done a small short course, even online, add it there, Explain to them how you've taken care of your elderly parents. Don't we have our grandparents at home? Some families, you already even have people who are dealing with disability. Those are things that are transferable skills. Highlight those things properly. Be a strong candidate with a good, well-done resume and an email that you check regularly. Go to those websites, and I've talked about them even on my channel. Enroll there. Apply for those jobs. If you get a job, then go apply for the work permit from your country. That's an example of an inexpensive way to approach that issue from stage A to Z.
Yeah.
And then another booming sector is also the food service sector. Because when COVID happened, we know in the tourism sector almost collapsed in many countries. These places closed. But then now, after most of our countries opened up, these businesses are opening up again. They are trying to get workers to keep afloat. So I know, for example, in the food service sector, they are hiring for cooks all the time in most provinces. Servers and waiters, cleaners, because they need people to clean these places, bartenders, and general housekeeping. So these are also low-skilled labor jobs. These are not things you need to be highly trained to do, not unless you are a chef, which is okay. If you are a chef qualified, you can also apply. But equally, the people who are not, trained chefs and have that much training, as you heard, there's also something for you. Go to the YouTube channel, check the methods I've already talked on how to get jobs from abroad. Do it. Go try get your work permit. Now, and the beautiful thing is some employers now in Canada, not all, are now allowed. There's a process employers go through internally that the government allows them to hire from abroad. So not everybody is allowed. Not every company is allowed to do that. But equally, there's a large number of them that are allowed now and are doing that. And in some applications, even at the bottom, if you scroll and read everything, you will see them saying they already have something called an LMIA approval, Labor Market Impact Assessment approval. Some employers already have it, not all. So some of those jobs, if I were you, don't waste time with the ones who don't have approval. I'm not saying you don't try, just try them. But if I were you, if you see the ones that are showing they already have LMIA approval, make sure you are applying to those people because your chances there are higher. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you want success in this thing. Now, I'll stop the food service. The examples are many. I'll go to another sector that is booming is transport sector. By transport sector, the examples I have are delivery drivers. Delivery is a big thing here in the diaspora. People buy food, they want delivered up to their doorsteps. And not just for pizzas only, like back home. Here, people even do grocery shopping online, and they want people to deliver medicine. They want delivered at their door, their prescriptions, all manner of things you can imagine. That is a big thing. Another thing that is also booming is long truck drivers, because Canada is big.
Yeah.
Check the map. So in one time or the another, they need drivers to move things from down the map there to up there, And those jobs, some of them, they pay decent wages than what sometimes you'd get for them in the developing world. Here, a long truck driver is somebody who gets money that is able to pay their bills properly, is able to take their kids to school, is able to invest and even buy a home. Because, here there's minimum wage legislation, and not just the legislation being there, people follow those things. So you can be a truck driver, but you have your medical benefits. You're getting your wages and your money is paid on time. There's no stories at the end of the month, oh, your salary is still waiting. No, you get your salary. Just to make people understand the difference that here a delivery driver, yes, you can make ends meet because minimum wage legislation is there. It's followed. You get your payment. You have your benefits, and And another thing, bus drivers also, because again, there are many buses that run from the estates where people live to downtown to everywhere. So the bus transport is always running, hiring drivers. Not much qualification is needed for those things that I'm saying. But of course, in driving, of course, you have to have had your driving license. And depending on the level, because a truck driver, I'm sure, needs a different classification. But those are things you can get even with not much money in your countries. You can train for those things ahead of time. But if I were you, also go online, look at a truck driving resume in Canada. Google, those are some of the things you can use your Google for. Look at those examples, copy them, and make sure your resume looks close to that, so that you stand a strong chance of getting this job. Another sector, because I want to move quick, I don't want our time to end before I deliver on the task I was given, is childcare. Booming also, because here, you're not allowed to leave your child alone in the house if you go to work. So all of us, for us to work, at one point, we are either paying daycare or nannies, depending on your pocket. So majority of the people pay daycare, but of course, there are also wealthy people who don't want their children to go to daycare. They pay nannies. That's why I listed both of them. So you can also look for what they call childcare assistant jobs to work at actual daycare facilities. Look for that when you go to those sites. And, once you come to my channel to learn how to get those jobs, also look for nanny jobs. Nannies are the ones people hire privately to go take care of their children in the homes. Equally, those jobs will pay you. You are still able to make ends meet if you budget. And same, this industry, there's also something we call home care workers. There are people who also just hire people to come to their homes, not necessarily to take care of their children, but let's say there are people who, let's say they're living with their elderly parents. They don't want to take them to facilities and they can afford. People like that sometimes hire home care workers to just come to their home to make sure their parents are fed, their laundry is done, they're eating well, they're taking their prescription. So I've covered 4 broad sectors. I'll just repeat in case somebody joins late. I went through healthcare sector, booming with many examples I gave. You can go ahead in the video and listen to what we said. And the transport sector, I also discussed that in depth. I talked about the food service sector, and we also talked about the childcare sector and the opportunity sector. Yes. Thank you.
Awesome. So, but before you go, so actually one of the interesting things that I really wanted to talk to you about is, so you are also a Kenyan who lives in Canada, and I was curious about, you've given us different options and different ways that people can get there, but what was your personal journey? Can you just give us a little bit about how you ended up in Canada?
Life, sometimes you look for opportunities, everybody wants to grow. So for me, I was a student at one point. So I have the experience of going to school here. And when school ended, I got into the labor market, just like all of us, to pursue a career, and get something to also do. But one thing I can say is my experience here, apart from the weather, because I grew up in warmer countries, but here it gets very cold, but it's only in the winter anyway. Summer is very beautiful. So far, I've enjoyed being here. The culture is good, and there's a lot of fairness. And I can't lie to you guys, there's a lot of opportunity here too. But again, I think that in life, it depends on what you're looking for, because two people can go to the same place. Another can say, oh, this place is too cold. It's not working for me. That's okay too. We value your opinion. Another person can also equally go there and just say, you know what, this is an opportunity. I will learn what people are doing here, and come what may, I will make it the way other people are also make it here. You can also choose that option. But either way, there are opportunities that you can explore for sure, because as you can tell, I'm a visible minority too. My accent can tell you I was not born here. But somehow we stand on the shoulders of the people who came ahead of us, who advised us and guided us. And here we are.
Awesome. Nice. Hey, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for all this information. I think sasa watu wamepata what they needed. Now, that information is there. I didn't realize that I know there's a hunger for people to kind of get more opportunities out there, but I didn't realize how much zeal there was out there for at least the people that watched the video to find out how they can get out of Kenya and go abroad. So thank you so much. I think you filled in a lot of the gaps, and definitely I'm encouraging also anybody that's interested to go to Zuru on YouTube. All that information and a lot more is there. So thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time and information.
Yeah, you're welcome.